Hey, Rock.
Hello. How's it going?
Vigorous. I like that word.
Yes. Ready for action.
Ready for action. What a great weekend last weekend, my friend.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was amazing to see your space, see you guys in action again. If anybody listening is ever able to get to Human Garage event, definitely get out. It's a whole lot different to see them in person, to meet them. For now, they're interacting with the audience too. So get
It's a different world out there, isn't it?
yeah, yeah.
What'd you think about first of all, man, your opening was so inclusive. It brought everybody into one complete thought process and feeling process on the weekend.
That's what sound does. Yeah, we did some chanting. People were chanting though without me telling them that they were chanting. Sort of warmed up everybody, and then all of a sudden the whole room was just in harmony, and that was amazing because there were so many people there. The room was basically packed. There was a huge hallway with gigantic chandeliers coming from the ceiling. So it was really cool that everybody was in vibration as one.
And we had about, if you count all the people that weren't ticketed, we had about almost 400 people. So we had 390 some odd people.
Yeah, it definitely seemed like more than expected.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really, really, really cool. And thank you everybody for the birthday greetings. Technically, my birthday happens at 7:44 tonight.
So, so you and Jason, are you same signs?
Yeah, we're both Sagittarius, but he's an Aquarius Sag. That's why he looks like Arda.
Right, right,
Yeah,
he does.
and I'm just
Well, happy
and
birthday.
I'm a Virgo, Cancer, Capricorn, Aries, Sag. So because I'm 29 degree, 2 plus 9 is 11, so it makes a Grandmaster Virgo. And then also 1 plus 1, 11 is 2, which makes a Grandmaster Cancer. So basically, Sagittarius pushes the boundaries, student teacher, pushes the edges of reality. Virgo brings it into the reality, and 2 takes care of everybody. And then the Capricorn allows me to get it done, and the Aries in my rising is what moves me and motivates me to be a leader.
You're man, and you were born in like the very, very beginning of winter. The very start of yeah.
Yeah, look at it out here. Like we've got a blanket of cloud there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a blanket of cloud there.
Right. Oh, so it looks like you're above the clouds.
Yes,
Yeah, I love
yes,
when it does
yeah.
that in the mountains.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
And I missed you getting in the ice cold water there because I was waiting for Lisa and Mary to come down, but on our climb, and we got some video of this, I think, on our climb, raw at the end of it, there's this ice cold pool in the bottom of this waterfall. And so we come down there and Raw's in his skivvies, his underwear, and he's sitting in the cold water pool.
Yeah. It wasn't it was pretty cold, but the I was taking cold showers at your guys' house, and that was cold compared to like the Southern California cold shower.
Yeah,
The water in Vancouver coming out of those pipes were super
yeah,
cold.
because we're in the mountains, so the water comes right off the mountain.
Hmm. Right. Which I encourage everybody to think about those things if they're getting into a house, right? Like where's the sunset, where's the sunrise, where does the water come from? This is all important stuff.
So you guys moved though. You were in Ventura,
Ventura, yeah, yeah, yeah.
and you
We
have
can
a beautiful
actually,
view.
yeah, and that so we actually can see the sunrise and the sunset from our house. I just
Whoa.
go out this. There's a deck on this side, and then there's a like a whole ocean view on the other side for sunset.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So, I mean, I pay attention. When you go into a house, pull out your compass on your phone and then just start looking. Ideally, where you're spending your time, you absolutely do not want facing north if you're in the northern
Right.
hemisphere because it's going to be in complete shadow all day long. So
Yeah.
that's my main thing is like, do not have your backyard or wherever you're going to be spending your time facing north, because that's complete in shadow.
So, what was your biggest takeaway from from the weekend? Well, all those people spending time here, like what was it that you came away? What did you come back and talk about?
Well, what motivates me and why I love hanging out with everybody is the community. And it's not just the community, because I'm around communities. It's how you guys set up the community and the direction that you're taking it, because everybody does it a little bit different, right?
Yeah,
Sometimes you have to pay to be a part of a community. Sometimes you have to be at a certain level to be in the community. Sometimes it's only athletes or only this. And I just really enjoy how you guys are bringing people in a fashion that they can learn, and then also, still be connected to the inner circle in a way that they can, come over to your guys' house, and we can all enjoy dinner and share conversation together. And all of those people contributed to the event as well.
yeah.
I remember somebody said, like, Gail's coming with 30 lifestyle artists, so we're gonna have enough people to help set up. And I thought that was cool. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, it it really warms my heart because the only thing that we ask is that people take care of themselves and help others, and that's the it's the only other that's the only qualification, because when people take care of themselves, when they actually stop putting chemicals on and in their body, when they start managing their emotions and taking care of their body, and they all have it by default, they all gel together, because you can get people who all hit a certain performance level or all pay for something. And you can't pay to be here. That's the thing. And you can get somebody who can do that, but it doesn't mean that they fit. And that was one of the things, because we have people who donate, and like we've had people who donate even up to $175,000, but they earn their way to the lifestyle artist retreat. Doesn't matter, the donation is there because they want to help the community. It doesn't imbue somebody with a special privilege, and that was one of the ways that we did it. Is for the most part, except for some of them, because of the size of them, we don't even know who the donors are.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
Yeah.
want to know. I want to treat everybody the same. I want every single person that I come in contact with could be the largest donor that we ever had.
Right. So you said taking care of yourself and taking care of others, and
Mhm.
that's essentially the foundation of everything that I teach people. Is first, we must integrate ourselves so that we are in alignment, so that we have full access to the full spectrum of ourself. And there's a bunch of different parts of ourselves. If you look at that screen in the background, we have all of that. Those aren't just mechanical parts. Those are flowing circulation, energy, lymph, air. Those are all the different parts of us that result in emotions, thoughts, actions. And if all of those different parts are at war, or not in alignment, or one wants to go in this direction, another wants to go in this direction, you're a mess, and you're not going to be able to integrate into society that way. So first is definitely about the self, and then that grants you access to connect with others, because you've done the work and you've integrated yourself. And then when you go out and you interact with others, you can sense them more, and then we can start collaborating as a species if we've done the inner work ourselves.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean that's the way I look at it. I look at us as a species, which sounds kind of cold when I take away the humanity in it, and I
Hmm.
look at us as a species, which gives me compassion for everybody. Because in the humanity part, I get angry and frustrated at certain people or certain things that are done. But from the species part, species have to have every aspect of it. Like I can look at people who are not taking care of themselves, people that are hurting other people, and I can accept that, because without that, a species doesn't thrive.
So if you go into the forest, you're going to see all of the parts of humanity that we feel is bad, you're going to see that. Like it's natural, and we are nature, and it's necessary for that stuff to happen for the evolution of our species, as you said. And some of it's dark and dirty and not comfortable in the moment, and we can zoom into that and only focus on that. However, come back to self. Where are you at with yourself? Why is it giving you a problem? Is there a solution that you can come up with in yourself? And that's really what we all can control, is how we take care of ourselves, how we interact with ourselves, and that's going to empower and expand to others.
So how do you? So this is a big deal, because I have people all the time that say, I want love, joy, peace. I want to be in that. I want to be in the higher emotions,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, if you're in the higher emotions all the time, they're no longer higher emotions.
Right. Well,
You have to have contrast. You have to have that darkness.
right. And the only way to get there is to so first of all of those emotions, like you said, are all on a spectrum. And so if you don't know the whole spectrum, then you're not going to be able to get to it. It's like you have to go through the struggle, the pain, the anger, the shame. All of those emotions grant you access to the higher vibrational emotions, according to Richard Dawkins. So when people get confused on like, what do you mean by vibrational? What does that mean? Higher, lower? Like they're numbered, they're measured and numbered frequencies. You can look up the scale of consciousness by Dr. Richard Dawkins. But you have to go through it. And it's necessary to experience joy. You have to experience anger. Anger is what got you into action to move you so that you can find harmony, happiness, joy.
So what do you do when, what do you say to people that, there's a lot of emphasis on this, especially in the spiritual community. It's like peace, love, and light, everything has to be good. And then usually what I find is they run up against something that's dark or angry or something like that, and then they beat themselves up because they're in that spot.
It's everything's a cycle. We're cycling. So we don't just get to stay in one spot. If anything, the worst thing is not progressing, right? So progression is what brings us true happiness. It is the purpose of life, progression. And we don't just progress in a linear fashion. Life is a little bit more complex than how we were taught in school, right? In school, we're just like first grade through 12th grade, and I just keep on getting better and smarter, and everybody just go. That's not how it happens. You go through, and then you relearn, you remember, you re-experience those same situations again. Hopefully, you've integrated the lessons, because guess what? Second time through, fifth time through, 50th time through, they get harder. They get more difficult. They get more challenging. Back to, we didn't just come here to coast, right? So if you
Right.
imagine being experienced downhill mountain biker, it would be like torture to just ride on flat roads your entire life. Like they want to bomb hills. They want the danger to keep on increasing so that they can increase their skill level. So what was difficult 2 years ago is now like you understand it, you get it. And it's the same thing with every aspect of our life. Just because you've done the work doesn't mean it gets easier. In fact, it gets more difficult, it gets more challenging, because you are more capable. So those that are going through the most challenging circumstances are the ones that are the most capable. You must be strong if you're going through this hard situation, because otherwise you wouldn't be there. So remind yourself that you are capable, and this is here for your own self-enhancement, progression, so that you can add to the evolution of our species. The situations we're in right now are going to add to your value 10 years from now.
You know,
This,
so we have a lot of people out there, and I saw some people in the comments by someone approach to claiming to be you. Reported them. That's good.
Oh yeah.
So we have a lot of people out there that blame themselves when they get angry. You know, like one of the things that I've learned over this last little while is when I get angry, when I get mad, when I blow up and stuff like that, is to not beat myself up. When I do something that I don't like, I instead of getting mad, why did I do that? I so stupid. I can't believe it. I'm so ashamed. I go, whoa, that was impactful. What is it that's driving that now? And by doing that, I take away the worst part of it isn't the action, it's all the stuff I do after the action.
Hmm. I mean, one of the first things we learn in psychology, which is what I went to college for, is the things that we don't like about somebody else is really what we don't like about ourselves. So if you're in a situation or you're whether it's an experience or somebody that's making you angry, that's a window into your own soul of it's highlighting where you could be looking to resolve the issue.
Whoa. Okay, wait for me to come back. Your advice on alcoholic leaving rehab today, not been sober longer than 30 days ever. Okay, my alcohol is about sadness. At the core of it, sadness is connected to fear. The 28-day reset, I would get in right away. I would start taking Power Kirk and the supplements. It's the feelings and the emotions that drive you. Stress and dehydration are the first ones that will drive you to drink with those emotions. So foundation, the 28-day reset supplements, including the probiotic and the masszymes, because the probiotic helps you create serotonin. That's what's going to keep. It's the feelings of serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin. It's going to keep them from going back. And if they're alcoholic, almost 100% for certain they're dehydrated. So that'll help. And then fascia maneuvers, 15-minute stress reset. Do it with them. There you go.
I don't know what happened.
Oh,
And I
dude,
forget.
I gotta tell you, it's like in the last 3 days, we've had the mobile menu for our website down. Our primary communication tool with external kicked the primary user off, just deleted them from the platform. Our Wi-Fi ports that are bulletproof, airport grade, shut off in the house or not up. Bandwidth went down. Internet wouldn't go up yesterday. Like it is Mercury retrograde. Like you cannot make this stuff up.
Yeah, and myself and almost everybody we interact with down here, we're extremely tired uh, Monday and Sunday. Like
Mhm.
we're like zombies. So definitely something going on. Maybe some solar flare too in there
Yeah,
as well.
and we're coming up to the equinox. So the equinox is technically starts at 7:44 tonight, p.m. Pacific time, 10:44 Eastern time. And so like today's my birthday, but actually my birthday is on the 29th degree. So my birthday technically starts at 7:44. But what does the equinox mean to you? We're changing now.
Well, I mean, it's death. Like back to the cycles. We go through birth, life, death, rebirth, right? So it's a change. It's dying, and so back to like taking the humanity out of it. Dying for us is a bad word.
Right.
I mean, almost every single dollar of everybody's life is to extend our life. But go into nature right now, all of the leaves have fallen off the trees. And all of the different aspects of ourself are like those leaves, and we're the tree. And so this is a time of shedding. This is a time of hibernation. This is a time of resetting. And January 1st is usually when we do our New Year's resolutions. I feel that this is a time of reflection, and the darkness is going to cause you to sleep and dream. And the activity, the action, the actual birthing of all of these intentions don't have to happen January 1st. So we don't need shame if we're not actually doing it, because this isn't a time where our body feels like producing massive amounts of energy. That's going to come when the sun starts coming out.
Right.
But right now we're going into darkness. So darkness is the unmanifest. So be creative in the non-physical.
Yeah, you know, and the beginning of the astrological calendar is actually Aries, so that's the third week of March. And so this is the, you're right, this is the getting it done. Capricorn is about bringing it into reality, but Capricorn is about control. So from now, from tonight, starting tomorrow, people are going to try to exert control over their lives, over their personal health, over the people around them, their situations. And they've been making decisions about what that control looks like. What do they believe? And today is a day that everybody, especially today, all the way through to tomorrow night, is a day that everybody's going to be tested on what they believe. Old patterns are going to come up, and people are going to go, "Oh shit, I thought I got rid of that, or I thought I didn't believe in that." And this is what's going to happen. That's why I love astrology, because it's like precise.
It's amazing. And a lot of people have woken up, right? They've become more conscious in the last few years. And I know that because I used to message every single person that followed me, and I just got that message a lot. You know, I became conscious a year ago. And so, you know, these last few years have been a great awakening for a lot of people. However, it's not the end. We all must remember back how we used to think 10 years ago. Those patterns evolved. We're not done evolving right now. So it's really easy to sit and be comfortable in our current paradigms, but be aware that those also can be shattered, and they will be.
Well,
And be
that's
open
what's
to it.
happening is we are, what's happened to us recently is really big names in the industry have, in our new paradigm, have reached out and says, we want to partner with you. Like we're talking some big, big names. And this has all happened since Saturday. And it's the new story. So
Right.
things are coming into our lives, but we have to be aware. We have to be looking for it. But if we're still trapped, and like the testing for today, by the way, and tomorrow, is you're being tested to see, am I going to go to the old story, the old beliefs, or am I going to go to the new story, the new beliefs? And it's all about our reaction. So this whole thing for the next 36 hours is really about how do we react to the stimulus.
That's great advice. It's are we ready? Are we willing to take this step that essentially we've been asking for at some level? And when it comes to us, are we going to even recognize it? Are we going to seize the opportunity and move forward into it? Because it's definitely going to be not like we've been before, which is uncomfortable and it could be scary, and it could lead up to all those emotions that we tend to stay away from. But that's the opposite of evolution.
So what do you do? Do you have a ritual or something you're going to do for the solstice?
I don't
Okay.
know. Sometimes I go, you know, a lot of times there's somebody doing something, and I go do something on like that. But we just moved to a new place. We've been pretty distracted with that. But everything you just said is a reminder to look out for, you know, that opportunity and seize it. So that's, I guess, going to be this year's uh, ceremony for me.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. I can already feel it. I can already feel like almost like holes opening up, that I can slip into a new paradigm of reality.
So is there a belief of yours this year that's changed that you can really articulate, like something that where you go, whoa, I really believe this, or I didn't before?
So for me, it's a constant. Uh, it's what you were talking about. It's being in the high vibrational emotional states, being the preferred state versus allowing the other emotions to move through others. I feel like I was practicing allowing it to move through others without me judging.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm getting to the point where I realize like, oh, those actually exist in myself too. So it was almost like I was sidestepping feeling some of those emotions internally by allowing others to do it. And then I realized like, oh, but this is still happening within me. And to not ignore it and to not fight it and to open up. Because when I do get frustrated, which is very rare, it's like maybe it's rare because I'm staying away from it. You know what I mean? So is there a way for me to push into that and discover? Because there's always things in our life that we can enhance, right? And maybe the enhancement comes by pushing into those areas. You know, if my goals and my dreams and my life isn't pushing me into those edges, into those boundaries, then maybe I'm too comfortable. Maybe I've purposely relaxed myself to the point where I'm docile enough that I never get angry, never get sad, never get too hyper emotional because I'm just sitting comfortable. And that's like kind of like on the main stage for me. Not that I want to force myself to get angry, but what's going on in my life that I'm too far on one edge.
So when you do get angry, what do? Like, what is the normal go-to process? Like, do you calm down? Do you do a movement? Do you sit in silence?
It's this, I can feel this like building up in my body, right? And I'm assuming that's chemicals because it just feels like a fire and it starts to shake my entire body. And it almost starts to even, I can feel my whole consciousness, and I'm sure that's shifting into a different section of my brain, and it starts to change even my brain wave frequencies, and I can start to feel all of that because I'm aware of going in the opposite direction, right? I'm very conscious and practiced in like calming myself through meditation, and that's a whole process where you can feel yourself kind of dropping into this zone. So when I feel myself going in the opposite direction and almost losing attachment with calmness and starting to think different things, this is what I'm really easy. I can pull myself out of that with a few breaths.
Mm-hmm.
Just
You were
focusing on the breath.
talking about that, just breathing up, like it's the same thing as when you get nervous, like before the event.
Yeah. So when you let in the air, right? Like an inhale and inspire, breath etymologically means spirit. So what we know of as spirit is the meaning of it beyond the words is breath. Like breath and spirit are the same exact thing. So I bring in the essence of the universe through breath. However, the point that I was saying earlier is instead of going to just getting rid of it, because that's just kind of like for me just erasing it, the questions that I'm starting to open up to is like, why is this happening, and highlighting it, because that cycle, if I just erase it, then I'm going to experience it again next time the same situation happens.
Right.
But for most people, so if we do, so I've taken people through a lot of psychological reprogramming drills. If we are aware, like, oh, this is because my father took away my doll before dinner time every single day of my life, and I didn't understand why I had to give up something to get something. And so you get in these situations where if something comes up like that, where you recognize the trigger, a very, I don't want to say easy, but a very simple way to work on yourself is to bring up that situation in your life. Go back, remember, like actually become one with the memory and journal about it. Journal about all the times your dad took away your doll, how mean he was. Yeah, like you were 7 years old. You weren't able to understand it from your adult consciousness, but now you can. So there's a lot of things that happened to us when we were younger that we couldn't comprehend in the moment, and that set a program into our life that if we don't go back and sort of unkink that program, we're not going to be able to write a new program. And a way that you do that is journal. Journal for 10 to 15 minutes on the situation. Like, what do the colors look like? What does it feel like? What are the emotions? How hurt were you? And after you do that for 10, 15 minutes, relax for a second and then rewrite the scene. You have to overwrite programs. You can't just say, I don't want to do it, because that's a very weak stimulus, and your body's just going to keep on running the program. So if you bring up the program, get deep into there and make sure you're relaxed and calm, and technically you should be in theta brainwave frequency, which is a state of meditation. You can go in, bring up the program, and then overwrite it. Journal again for 15, 20 minutes on what you would have desired to happen in that situation. And it sounds silly just thinking about it now, but when you actually overwrite it, you literally are reprogramming your psyche.
Well, you have 10 fingers, 10 organs. That's why cursive is being taken out of our culture, because when we're writing, we're actually expressing emotions. And and as we do more of this and less of this, we become, we have more emotions that are stuck in our body. Our hands are how we think about our emotions, and our feet are how we feel about our emotions.
The cursive thing is like a stream of consciousness. Right. And like, it's just very jarring to print, and it feels jarring. It's like, it's almost like you shake yourself out of the stream when you're printing.
Yes.
And all of these things, like you said, it is on purpose. It is with intention. Like, things you don't even think about, like what writing style, like things are, I mean, everything in our society is made to break, right? If you go back 70 years, there's a term for it. I forget what it is, where you design something with the intention that it breaks in a few years. It's at the tip of my tongue, but I can't remember. But that's every
Planned
product.
obsolescence.
Something like that, yeah. Oh, no, that's what it is. Yeah.
Planned obsolescence. It's like,
you know about
like at Graham Bell, right? At Bell Labs, the original light bulb that was set up by Alexander Graham Bell is still
lasts
burning
forever.
today. Yeah. And so the question is, why don't the ones that we put in our house do that?
Right. I saw somebody yesterday, one of my friends, he was saying that he's got cars in his yard from the 60s that still have air in the tires. They're still holding air in the tires perfectly fine, just sitting in his yard outside. But he's got brand new cars that are 8 years old in temperature controlled storage units that he has to constantly keep on replacing the tires and the valves because they rot out. So it's definitely planned. But my whole point was that we are also a product, that they are purposely degrading.
Planned obsolescence, yeah. I mean, we're getting sicker faster. Every measure, you know, I don't get it very much anymore, but people go, I'll say, you know, we're getting sicker faster, but we're living longer. And I'm like, that is even not true. We're dying sooner now. They took infant mortality out of the stat pool 14 years ago in order to make it look like we weren't dying as fast as we are. But we are right now. And the quality of life, people who are 80s and 90s right now basically don't move. And when I was a kid, like if you go back 50 years ago, 80 and 90-year-olds were like climbing up on top of roofs, baling hay. Today, that just doesn't happen. And we think it's normal. And you know, part of it is, you know, the biggest attack is on women. When I went to school, I'm 54, women wouldn't wear makeup until the senior year of school. They weren't allowed. The teachers would send them home. And then senior year, they let them wear makeup. Well, you know, now makeup has so much toxic chemicals and lead and heavy metals and stuff like that. We got 2-year-old and 3-year-olds putting it on. Tampons have the same chemical as a cigarette with bleach on it now, and putting it right into the blood. We've got PAFs, which blows my mind. It's in all of the like pants, like big names like Lululemon. In the crotch area of the pants is where the PAFs are. It's like we sprayed them in there, and
Yeah.
all this stuff is, the attack on women. It's like even the little things like high heels I talked about the other day with our breath messiah. When you go up and on your chest, if have you ever done that? Put your hands right here on your chest, and then
Hmm.
stand right on the top of the chest, and then stand up on your heels, tighter, right? That causes a restriction there. That restriction also, if you put one hand here, one hand right behind your rib cage on the same side, and you stand up, it gets tight right underneath the rib cage. Guess what that is? That's your adrenals. So that makes your adrenaline fire. So that's why it's so exciting to wear high heels. And you can look at a woman or a person wearing high heels, and it's actually exciting because it drives adrenaline in them, stress, and it drives it in us, excitement. But over time, that wears down their adrenal function and their ability to create and produce. It's been it's benevolent, or sorry, it's not benevolent. It's malevolent at the best. And even things like daylight savings times, because we it's funny because living in Cancun, we don't recognize it, but the rest of the world changes, so it's very disruptive. But when we live in daylight savings times, it takes 6 months for our circadian rhythm. Our circadian rhythm changes every 2 hours for every organ. And that's our health and our emotional health and our ability to process. It changes, and it takes 6 months to get our circadian rhythm back in gear after a 1 hour change. And then we change again.
Yeah. I mean, there's the women thing is all underneath the guise of empowerment, right? So it's like now they have an ability to work 50 hours a week just like all the men. And so they're doing that and they're dressing up in high heels because that's the program that they're set on. And we do need to always be aware of we do get to always be aware of how things make us feel. And that's essentially the whole point. I don't necessarily hate the government. Like they have a right, or the elite. They have a right to an agenda just like we do. And I'm not saying you do either. You didn't say any, but being aware of their agenda and then also being aware of our agenda and choosing our agenda over theirs is true empowerment, not falling into their story. Basically everything that comes out of the TV, everything that comes out of the school system, everything that comes out of the doctors. There are some doctors that have opened up and can tell you the truth. Find one of those. But everything that comes out of the system is to serve the system. It's not to serve you. We feel it feels logical that it's there to serve us, but it's really there to control us, to manipulate us, to steer us in a way that's best for their agenda, which they have a right to do. But look into things. Should I be eating a certain way? Even we were taught our whole entire life that if you don't drink water for 3 days, you're dead.
Yes.
This is like a complete fallacy that any single person on the entire earth can find out immediately. That was just a lie the entire time because of the benefits that actually happen when you don't eat or you don't drink. Did I say eat? I meant to say drink. If you don't drink water for 3 days, you die. But if you don't eat and don't drink water for 3 days, that's when your body goes into complete repair and regeneration, when you start dry fasting for over 3 days. And it's hard to get to, but if you look into all of the religions and the occult philosophies, that 40 days and 40 nights, in the desert without food and water, like that happens to the Messiah characters right before they basically change the planet.
I think that's why we ended up on that 44-day fast and 2 weeks without water too.
Yeah. I mean,
it was the most transformative thing that I've ever done in my life. I was really angry at first because I I realized that I had been tricked and I had bought into a system and I had defended that system, talking about how you had to have your protein, carbs, and fats, and you had to eat meat, and you had to do this, and you had to eat, and you had to drink. And I didn't do any of that for 44 days. And the funny part was, at the end of 44 days, I was fat.
You were fat?
Yeah, I didn't. You ever see those
Oh, you
three
mean
pictures I put
that
up?
you didn't turn into a Holocaust person?
Yeah, I mean, I was like, I actually expected that I would. I was actually disappointed because I had gotten really ballooned up because of I was releasing all these emotions, and that's when I was really learning that that the math of calories in, calories out, and burning it doesn't really work. It works to a degree, but it's not the answer. It's not the full answer.
Yeah. And that's interesting because I always use that 40 days and 40 nights thing as an example in religious characters, not, but like that is kind of like you guys were going through that metamorphosis in your journey, and there was an explosion of the amount of people that you guys reached after
Right
that
after
moment.
that, yeah, yeah, right after the 44-day fast, we just went kaboom and went into millions of people. And I can tell you there were some things that I go back on, and because this last year and a half I've been, 5 days, 10 days, 2 weeks. I've been in and off, and because I want to learn, I want to understand it. So you can't understand it doing it once, even for 44 days. I did for 44 days, and it was great, but I still didn't quite understand it. I had to go off and on, and see how my body responded. And the weirdest thing, Ra, I got to tell you, the weirdest thing was looking at food at the end of 44 days and going, I know I used to like that, but I have no idea what it tastes like because I lost the memory of food, which is in the feeling of it, not in the thought of it.
Yeah, it's almost like it was your first time experiencing
It
it.
was.
And
It's rebirth. It's rebirth. After 28 days of not eating, you rebirth.
and that's just the food, right?
Yeah.
So that had to have been everything in your life as well. Um,
Yes.
it's just the food is what was like most
Well,
apparent.
here's some other things. Not having a bowel movement for 6 weeks. Um, And the other thing too is virtually not urinating ever, like maybe every 3 or 4 days, a little bit. The other thing that was, like imagine if you're thinking about food, going to food, getting food, eating, cooking food, cleaning up from food, cleaning your waste from food. That's 8 to 10 hours a day that you get back. And after a couple of weeks, it's like we would work and we'd have all this time. It was like living three lives. And then having constant energy, never having an energy dip, never ever being tired.
And buying food too.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's exhausting, And right now, it's since I've been on and off of fasting. So the way I look at it, if anybody who's been in an addiction and then come out of it, like or of anything, like going to parties or whatever. If you go to parties all the time, and after a while you grow out of it, you go back to a party and you see people doing it, you're like, that just doesn't resonate with me. It's almost like seeing drug addicts, right? And then when I watch people eat right now, I get this flash of people like doing heroin, being drug addicts, being in a drug den, and I'm like, I don't really want this. And it's taken time because the the addiction to food has been bred into us like dogs over generations, and um, I think, I've been trying to, in my mind, I know that the biggest and most transformative thing was the 44-day fast because it gave me a new look at life. And um, I've been trying to get people or working on ways to get people into that easier. And that's why like our fascial fuel puts you into ketogenesis automatically in 30 35 minutes and keeps you there for 4 to 6 hours. Like, yeah, that's a good start because when your body doesn't use sugar to regulate itself, sugar takes you like this, and your hormones go the opposite. So when you don't do that, your hormones baseline, you get all this energy back, even if you're eating.
And you're not craving sugar either
I
when you're
can't even eat sugar today. Like, Gail is making some. sweets for me. You know, like she's got, oh, gluten free, you don't want sugar, all this stuff. And I'm like, and then even putting it down, like if it's got honey in it or something, I can do it. But if it's got refined sugar in it, my body just doesn't even see it as food anymore. Like I don't see it as something I can eat. It's like looking at tar and saying, you know, or like tar paper and saying, would I eat that?
I mean, we were talking about reprogramming ourselves. The food thing is definitely a program that we get to realize. Like we've been taught that we must eat 3 times a day with snacks, and if our parents aren't doing this to us, then they're abusing us, right? It's almost like skipping dinner or not getting fed lunch is abuse in our society, and it's not. It's normal. It's natural. There's no way that we would wake up in our natural environment with a full set of breakfast. Does people must think like we would have to go out and pick berries off the bushes if we're, in the hunter-gatherer evolution paradigm of thinking about this, or not that I'm always in evolutional paradigms, but or go hunt something. And sometimes hunts, even now, currently on this planet, there's tribes that are going and hunting things that take 24 hours to catch. So they're running around. It's called the persistent method. They're running around chasing an animal for 24 hours till it faints, and then they can kill it and carry it back to their tribe. And they're not eating every single day.
You know what? My grandfather was a published author. I didn't even know this until after he passed away, and he had one piece that was not published, and it was in and I mean published like in magazines and journals. And this one piece was his description at 14 years old, coming from England to Canada. And he talks about learning all the new things. Like he talks about learning about how money worked and learning how society worked. He talks about learning about eating. And he said, and he was talking about, you know, eating more than once every 3 days. And he said, you know, I'm learning to that I can eat in different times. And because he didn't eat, you know, when he was growing up, he ate approximately once every 2 to 3 days. And so we were taught to eat 3 times a day. Well, when we eat, it occupies 80% of our perception, our energy to digest, process, and eliminate. So if we eat every day, 3 times a day, we lose our perceptive ability to interact with our environment.
I even feel the addiction. I'm not claiming that I'm free of this addiction. I fully treat my digestive system like a garbage compactor. Fully. But there's times in my life where I've been able to do that, and I feel like most of my life I've been very disciplined. But right now, after doing that for 20 years, you kind of swing back the other side and you don't care so much. But I definitely don't feel good doing it. It's like almost like I'm aware of this addiction, and I think about it as an addiction. I think about it as a program that I'm compromising and allowing myself to partake in. The point is that we have a choice with that. And even eating, like, food is a huge industry, huge. Because so many people eat. So if you are the heads of an industry, your whole entire agenda would be, how do I get people to eat more? That's the entire agenda if you're in the food industry. How do I get people to eat more? If you're in the entertainment industry, how do I get people to consume more? If you're in the drug dealing industry, how do I get these people addicted so that they're consuming multiple times
Well, that's
a
actually
day?
the same thing as the food industry.
And the
Sure.
pharmaceutical, it's our
drug
medical
dealing,
industry.
drug dealing and food. So here's something. Drive downtown and look at every building, truck, or person that's delivering, servicing food, delivery of food, accounting for food, and look at it and say, how many of these vehicles, how many of these buildings would be here if we weren't shipping food around? It is literally 2/3 of all the infrastructure that we have, and you can see this when we go to like when an army goes to war, is 80% of the people and resources that are carrying are to supply 20% of the people who fight. So it's munitions and food that they're carrying, and that's the hardest part about being in a war.
Right. And that, like back in the old days, you would need all the women, and there'd be the people fighting, and then there would be like miles of the people that were preparing food and making things for the army. And yeah, this is us. Like we're the army, we're working all day long, and then we have our supply of food. And it's huge. It's huge. There's a book, The Fish That Ate the Whale, that explains basically how the fruit, like it's in the fruit section, the bananas actually, it's like the banana companies back in the day and how they were essentially in a war to be like the biggest and the best banana, and the types of bananas as well, because there's farmers farming there's tons of different types of bananas if we weren't
Yeah,
aware.
I see the ones with seeds in them.
Yeah, I have two banana trees in my they're ready to be planted in my backyard that I'm just waiting to find the right spot. But they'll have bananas in a year or two. There's smaller ones. They're like the apple bananas from Hawaii. But yeah, it's all a mafia. It's all controlled crime that allows these companies to establish themselves above all others. And now we just have the one type of banana that's in the store, and it's usually just by one company.
Somebody mentioned about somebody coming from war and being malnourished here, and here's what I learned. I wanted to actually to address that. Um, if I can go 44 days without food and I can continue to do this, food is not a fuel. Food it can be a medication, but when we're in the third day of the fast, we produce stem cells. So what is the malnutrition when in a war like situation or in a containment situation? Malnutrition is the belief system that we need the food, because we have so many examples. As a matter of fact, NASA studied two people that lived without food, and if one person can do it, everybody in the world can do it. And there's a reason why that one person can and no one else can. NASA studied it. We have it in our community portal on our Mighty Network app. You just type in sun gazing, and you'll see the story where NASA studied a guy and said, yeah, he lives on sun. He actually doesn't even drink. He recycles his urine, all that stuff. And it's medically confirmed, scientifically confirmed. So the question is why? And there's a famous doctor who lived in Auschwitz who made it through, and they tried to starve him out. And what he did was he chewed every bite of food 100 times. So they tried to reduce his food down to a fist of food for the day, and nothing. He survived everybody that came through it, and they were experimenting on him. He wrote a book about it, and it was about chewing your food 100 times. And I'm like, okay, so if I chew my food, and I agree with chewing food more, but if I chew it like 30 times or 100 times, there's no more nutrition coming out of it. What it's doing is giving me a belief. He subscribed to a belief, and that belief he validated through his experience. And this is something that I want people to really, really get through this process. Food is a drug. It's a medication. It can be a medication, but when we use it for fuel, it becomes a drug, and it causes waste in our body. And after the drug of food, our body becomes dysregulated. Our hormones, our blood sugar. And I know it's going to take time for people to change this, but I spent the last year and a half basically virtually not eating.
Let's talk more about this. There's a guy named Li Ching Young. Li Ching Young. He's Chinese. He died in 1933, being 275 years old.
I know of him. The New York Times interviewed him 100 years ago.
And there's military documents proving that, like, it's not just like somebody said he's 275 years old. There's documents of him being in the military. I think he had like an extreme amount of wives because they just
Yeah.
kept on dying on him. I forget what it was, like 30 something wives or something like that.
Yeah, and then like 284 children, 290 children or something like that, and like hundreds of grandchildren.
And he ate a little bit. He ate some herbs. Like it was a medicinal thing for him.
Yeah.
But like there's a autophagy, right? So if you guys look up the word autophagy, autophagy. So phagy means eat. Auto means self. So when you quit eating food, then your body goes through a process of eating itself. And your all of your cells are getting into a war. And it's a war over resources. And it's not just your cells, it's the parasites, it's all of the cells in our body. And what survives that war inside when you're not feeding yourself constantly is the strongest cells. And Garry mentioned stem cells. Yes, we produce stem cells our entire life. They come from our liver, our kidney, our bone marrow. It's producing. But your body is only going to use those stem cells if you are not eating. Why? Because think about yourself from a natural standpoint, right? Wintertime, for instance, we shouldn't be eating. Right now we should be resting because the sun's down. We're going to have very little activity here. We're going to be eating less. This is a time, this hibernation mode, where stem cells are being used, right? So if we're just eating like it's spring and summertime all the time, the body's taking the stem cells and it's storing it in our fat because it's saying, think about it. It's saying, let's wait till this body is not as active and it's resting a lot and it's not eating. And at that moment, we'll do all of our repair and regeneration. This is how our body's designed. It's waiting for wintertime. However, there is no wintertime because we live in heated and air-conditioned houses. We have grocery stores that store our food. So it's a constant spring and summertime of feasting for us. And our body's taking all of these stem cells, storing it in our fat, never to be used until we fast. When we do this simulated winter time, the body eats its dead, damaged, broken cells, and then it, voila, has stem cells in the fat for it to replace the dead, damaged, and broken cells. And I'm not just saying this. If you go throughout, there's other ways to artificially stimulate stem cells. We'll say here, I'll mention that in a second. But Garry, do you have anything to say about that?
Yeah, I mean, I was involved in providing stem cell treatments for people between $30,000 and $80,000. And when I got my head around the fact that I can produce those and integrate them into my body after the third day, I'm like, why are we doing stem cells? It makes zero sense. The other part too is the body itself, all of these things that we've been taught about our body, every bit of it, like literally we have this formulous macro about how the body works. We put a spreadsheet. If you do this, you get this. If you do this, you get this. And the macro works, but what they did to confuse us is they gave us the value of this first cell. They said, here's what a human body does, here's how it works, so that nobody could ever figure it out. It is the craziest thing. And there is so much science on this. There's more science on this than there is on what food does for you.
So this stem cell stuff is crazy because we have stem cells. And another way to make sure that stem cells replace our current cells is stem cells are only going to replace dead, damaged, broken, diseased cells. So if you go over into the East, there's techniques that they use like Paeda in Japan or in Taoism. I'm looking around my room. There's these sticks that are made of, first you start with like bamboo, like sticks, and you hit yourself. And eventually those turn to steel rods, like little thin steel rods that you hit yourself, and you're hitting yourself all over your body, especially your organs, to basically break the cells that are too weak to be able to stand the hitting. And when you...
Oh, you're kidding. That's what they do.
Yeah, they're basically like killing the weak cells in their organs and in their tissue, up and down their arms, their legs, their head. They're killing their own cells so that the stem cells can go in, and the stem cell is going to go up to a cell and be like, okay, this one's damaged, let's replace this. But if it's just going around your body and everything's sort of healthy, even though it's like not optimal, but it's just there, the stem cell is going to pass on by. It's not going to replace it.
Wow. Okay, now, so thank you for that. I didn't understand. I've seen that, but I didn't quite get it. And then furthermore, if one of the things that I loved watching is, well, number one is frequency, because frequency generates stem cells. But the other one was um, a couple really famous videos. Greg Braden put it out the first time, I think, where in China they showed real time live on a video. They showed three people with intention working on a cancerous cell, and they on the scope with the intention, chanting, basically using frequency and intention, remove the cancerous cell. And it's been repeated experiment over and over and over and over again.
And they were chanting heal.
Yeah.
I believe it was the word heal.
Yeah.
In Japan, right? Heal, or whatever language it was. Yeah. And so when we identify our ailments, as opposed to magnifying our sickness and saying and identifying with the sickness, what's the reverse frequency? Because it's about overriding. Think about how there's these machines that you can put in buildings that can basically be the reverse vibration of an earthquake. They're called like earthquake dampers or something like that, where it's the same way that noise canceling headphones is actually probably the better example.
Oh, that's super cool. That makes sense. So you can actually cancel the effects of an earthquake on a building.
Yeah, and that's how noise canceling headphones work. It's not that noise canceling headphones block out the sound. They're canceling, which means that as sound comes in, there's another vibrational, kind of like a speaker, but not really a speaker, that matches all of the frequency. It's reading all of the sound that's coming in, and it's matching it so that you hear silence. And the earthquake ones are doing the same thing with vibration so that the building doesn't shake. It's the same thing with our thoughts and our emotions and even the sickness energetically within the body. What's the reverse emotion? What's the reverse thought? What's the reverse state of being? And that's how we can start tuning ourselves back to harmony, back to stillness and silence if we're in a chaotic, earthquakey environment.
You know, that's actually really Scott. Of course, Scott's a smart dude. Dampers, harmonic balancers. So I never really thought about it that way, but that is a way to explain how negative energy and work on negative energy. It's just the reverse.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. I mean, it makes sense, and I should have thought it that way. But that's a way to explain it to people. When there's a lot of negative energy, let's just reverse it. Let's just dampen it out.
And that's what I was talking about. Well, like, you have to override the program. You have to rewrite the script in the opposite in order to cancel it out. You can't just tell yourself, I'm not going to think about it anymore. I'm not going to do that anymore. You really have to embrace the opposite. So if you're always doing something that you're like, why the F am I doing this? I'm going to stop doing this. Like, whether it's eating candy or drinking too much or abusing yourself or abusing others, you can't, like, it's not going to work to just try to stop it. You must.
Scott says dogs and animals wag their tails to act as a damper. That's actually cool.
Yeah.
It makes sense. I mean, animals. Especially we got animals down in Mexico, and when there's a lot of emotions coming on, the one big mastiff dog, it'll come over and just sit by you. It basically doesn't move anywhere. And this dog, when there's a lot of emotions, will come over, just sit by you, and then it'll get up and go away. So they're actually moving the energy.
Yeah, our dog does that, especially, and a lot of, like, I'm sure a lot of people's dog, if you start arguing, as a relationship, the dog kind of like, it's trying to harmonize the situation by going and sitting next to, or like pawing or jumping on one of us. But even if Carol just like gets a phone call that she's like going into a certain zone because of, stress with work or whatever. Solar is going over and mending the situation. It's kind of it's his job. Like he's on it. He'll be on the other side of the house, and if something happens, he'll show
Oh,
up. And he'll
by the
show up
way, we
looking.
have our weekly meeting to understand and document Pisces, you, Jason, and myself, where just so everybody knows that we all have Pisces partners and we're trying to understand them. So we're going to have a weekly meeting and we're going to start documenting stuff and sharing our notes.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing the similarities.
It is. So Ra, it's been such a great conversation today. I'm looking forward to deep diving into some of these conversations. We're touching the edges of these. And I think maybe one or two of these topics we should go deep dive into it. Like you have so many facts and information that I don't have. And that's what I love about watching your stuff, going through your account. And if you haven't done it yet, follow Raw, is to dive deep into them. And like the thing with the hitting of the bamboo and then the rods, I've seen it. I had no idea what it was for.
Yeah, we could pick a topic and then we can come prepared with like a few aspects of that topic to talk about. And then it goes anywhere from there, right? But if we stay
Let's do
on a
that.
topic, we can get deeper because a lot of times we're talking, it takes us 30 minutes to go down into
Into
the
that
interesting stuff because we're
rabbit
trying
hole.
to
Let's do
figure
that.
out.
Let's do that. Let's take a couple of topics. I mean, oh, by the way, I wanted to say, so the final tally on our urine posts as we took 10,000 people that decided that they couldn't take it. But interesting, the one that we just put out now, not one negative comment on it now. And it's 500,000 views in a couple of days, and all of a sudden people are coming out of the woodwork. It's because we're taking these topics that people are. If you look at the shares and the shares and the forwards, it's like 3 times the likes.
Shares
And
and
I'm like,
saves.
what?
The shares and saves.
Yes, shares and saves 3 times the lights. And what that's doing is it means that it's a silent revolution of people who are already doing stuff to be healthy and they need a champion to talk about it. So that's why we're putting out a bunch of this content before Christmas. So we're giving them the power to talk at Christmas about it.
Yeah. I mean, people still have their paradigm to maintain, right? So even if they're dabbling in other practices, like with one foot in, they still have one foot in their other paradigm and things like that. Like even just choosing, not eating all of the food at Christmas dinner, not eating some of what your mom's cooked your entire life because it's not the healthiest thing. That's difficult for people to do and to say out loud. So they have to grab a little bit and, like I went through that, when I'm 20 years old and I'm like, I'm not eating any of this stuff anymore. And everybody was like, what? You too good for us? You're better than us? It's like, no, I'm making choices of my own.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, happy B-Day,
Yeah. Thank you,
Garry.
man. I'm looking forward to what today all the way through the end of tomorrow when my birthday ends at 8:40 tomorrow. I'm looking forward to experiencing all this and just remember it's all test today. It's your response to everything that comes up today, and it's going to be a
Yes,
powerful one for people today.
it's amazing. Yes, remembering, and I'm excited too.
Okay, buddy.
Bye, guys.
Take care.